Welcome, Mr. Carey. The floor is yours.
Chairman Gibbs, Ranking Member Bishop, Congressman Rahal, members of the committee, good morning. I want to thank you for inviting me to testify at this important hearing regarding the litany of new regulations being put forth by the U.S. EPA and their effects on Appalachian jobs. My name is Mike Carey. I am president of the Ohio Coal Association. The association provides a voice for many thousands of citizens working in Ohio's coal sector. I also serve on the National Coal Council and advisory committee to the Secretary of Energy on energy resource issues. Cheap, abundant coal is what powers the manufacturing base and provides affordable energy for families across the Midwest and other regions in America. The companies we represent, both large and small, affect the lives of 3,000 individuals in Ohio alone and over 30,000 secondary jobs that are dependent upon our industry. The Obama administration and its allies have declared war on coal across Appalachia. We are at ground zero for the fundamental overreach by this administration's regulatory agenda. The rural regions of Ohio, Kentucky, West Virginia, Illinois, Pennsylvania, and Indiana would all be devastated from losing major employers such as coal companies. In a rare statement of honesty, which actually bordered on hubris, last year the Office of Surface Mining stated in justification for the stream protection rule that 7,000 jobs would be lost in Appalachia. But that was okay, because some jobs would be created out west. Mr. Chairman, that's simply unacceptable. In fact, just last week, the Army Corps of Engineers filed a lawsuit against Buckingham Coal Company related to an operation in Morgan County, Ohio, which is right in your congressional district. They are attempting to prevent access for mining coal reserves already permitted under our state regulatory authority. Doing so ignores the intent of this committee and Congress when it wrote the Clean Water Act and SMACRA, where permitting jurisdiction was to be vested to the states. As you can see clearly, this administration is picking winners and losers by regulatory proclamation. The policies of the current administration will force fuel switching and shifts in regional coal from eastern to western reserves, which would lead to an increase in utility cost. Some people may think that I am exaggerating, but one need only look at the host of new regulatory proposals that are aimed at the Appalachian coal industry, that are not only just coming from the EPA, but they're coming from the Department of Interior, MSHA, and as I mentioned before, the Army Corps of Engineers, a list of which has been provided in my written testimony. Mr. Chairman, we need to do 4 things to stop this abuse on Appalachian coal jobs. First, we need to declare a regulatory timeout. We are still recovering from a recession, and this administration seems to forget that compared to 30 years ago, our air is cleaner, our mines are safer, and of course our water resources are better protected. Number 2, we need to reassert the primary role of the states in permitting decisions. We need legislation clarifying that our state continue to have primacy in interpreting the relevant portions of the Clean Water Act. 3, end the abuse of regulatory guidance documents. If it is important enough to be issued as a guidance document, then it is important enough to go through the normal public notice and comment period. Number 4, provide certainty in permitting decisions. Unfortunately, we need Congress to tell the administration to live up to its permitting promise. We also need the permits to be processed in a timely manner. The thousands of workers that are affected in the Appalachian deserve the right to earn a livelihood without being subjected to the whims of bureaucracy. And unfortunately, the administration is pushing bureaucracy in advance of the most extreme anti-coal agenda that our nation has ever seen. And how do I know this? They simply are following through on their campaign plan. Also, as a commissioner of the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection, current EPA Administrator Lisa Jackson issued the New Jersey Global Warming Plan, which called for a moratorium on all coal-fired power plants. Now, she may not be calling for a moratorium today at the EPA, but her regulatory policies are certainly creating them. Again, Mr. Chairman, this committee could declare a regulatory timeout, reassert state primacy in permitting decisions, end the abuse of the regulatory guidance documents, and provide certainty in permitting decisions. Mr. Chairman, I appreciate the opportunity to testify, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you. We'll begin our first round of questions. Mr. Carey, you are the member of the National Coal Council Advisory Board of the Department of Energy. How many meetings does the Council have with the Secretary of Energy, the Administrator of the EPA, and how would you describe those meetings?
Mr. Chairman, I'd be unclear to give you that, but I'd be happy to find out exactly how many meetings took place and provide that to the committee. I would not be able to answer that question because I don't know exactly.
Well, yeah, the second part of the question is how would you describe the tone of the meetings?
Well, again, I wasn't in the meeting, so it'd be hard for me to actually answer that question, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so, okay.
And Mr. Rahal, thank you. I always find it helpful when we all have the same set of facts. Both Mr. Carey and Mr. Roberts, I think it's fair to characterize or summarize your testimony that, and I believe, Mr. Carey, you may have even used this phrase, that the current administration has declared a war on coal. Is that pretty much what you said? I don't want to put words in your mouth.
That is true.
Okay. Here's my understanding of the permitting numbers since the Obama administration took office, that they inherited 140 pending permits. Of that number, 52 for surface mining. 52 have been approved. Of the 88 that have not been approved, none have been denied. Some are still pending, and some were withdrawn. Do you feel that that set of numbers will you still keep to your characterization?
Mr. Chairman, Ranking Member Bishop, I would say not just only in the numbers of permitting, but I think if you look at my written testimony, I describe a series of attacks on the coal industry, not just from the EPA perspective, but also if you look at MSHA, if you look at the Office of Surface Mining, if you look at the myriad of issues that are now facing the coal industry, there is no doubt in my mind, Mr. Chairman, Ranking Member Bishop, that the coal industry is under assault. And as far as the numbers of the permitting numbers are concerned, I think you have to look back at, certainly there were 140 permits, but then when you throw all those permits back into some coordinated policy that delays the time period, I think that is an issue.
But to be clear, the current administration inherited 140 pending permits. So if they were thrown back, as you just said, into some other process, that was a process that perhaps took place prior to the advent of this administration?
Mr. Chairman, again, I would have to look at the exact permits to which you were referring in order to be able to answer that question.
To the issue of jobs. And again, something all of us need to be have a heightened concern about, no matter where we live, what we represent. My understanding is that, and this is data that comes from MSHA, is that over the recent past, mining employment has dropped from about 60,000 jobs to about 30,000 jobs. That comport pretty much with Mr. Carey, Mr. Roberts, or Mr. Sunding? Does that comport, Dr. Sunding, I'm sorry. Does that comport pretty much with your information?
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Bishop, I would say that I can tell you about the 3,000 direct employees that are employed in Ohio's coal mining industry, and I believe that there are 17,000 that are in our sister state of West Virginia and somewhere in the middle in Pennsylvania, so it would be hard for me to quantify that exactly.
My understanding, again, from MSHA, is that we've gone from about 60,000 employees in the mining industry to about 30,000, and that all of that job loss took place prior to the Obama administration. And that the vast majority of that job loss is related to a move away from underground mining and more so towards surface mining because it is considered to be less expensive and safer. Does that comport with your information?
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Bishop, I would say that's absolutely not true.
So what is the loss? If the loss took place prior to the advent of the Obama administration and it is not related to the move to surface mining, then what is it related to?
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Bishop, I would say that what time period are you referring to that there's a loss of 30,000 coal jobs? I would argue very clearly that there's probably a difference in the amount of wagon wheel makers from 1890 to 1940.
Trust me, I'm not trying to be that specious, okay? This is recent data from MSHA. And I do think wagon wheel production has gone down. I'm not sure of that, but I think it has.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Bishop, as has the pickaxe. But I will tell you that I would again have to see the numbers for which you were referring, because certainly as mining practices have improved, just the amount of tonnage that you can get out of an underground coal mine now by man hour is completely different than it was 20, 30, 40 years ago. But as far as the move to Western coal, again, I would be hard to